Hello everyone, welcome back. So in our Appium with WebDriver series, today we are going to see how we can configure the iOS simulator and also write a quick WebDriverIO script and then run it. Okay, so in our previous session we have seen how to create a WebDriverIO project from scratch and then need to do the Appium specific the configurations, right? Like if you see here, then we have done the capabilities based on the Android capabilities. Okay, and then at the same time we changed a couple of things like the services to Appium so that it will run on the Appium server, and then the test case we have written it. Now the same thing today we are going to see how we can write the iOS test case and also how to inspect one iOS application, and also we will see what are the minimum prerequisites required to run your test case. Okay, so let's get started. So now the first thing is that how do we set up the iOS simulators? Okay, what are the minimum prerequisites? Now for this actually we need the Xcode. Now Xcode is one of the iOS or the Mac operating system or the Apple systems are giving the Xcode tool or a software which will be helpful to develop the iOS applications. Okay, or your iPhone applications or your tablet applications. So we need the Xcode first because that gives us the simulators as well. Okay, based on what kind of operating system you want to use, you can do that. Now for this actually I have already written a particular a blog on this, which is like a couple of steps that you need to perform. The first thing is that you need to first download the Xcode, so you can just go into this particular link. Okay, and then based on your version of your Mac operating system, you can download it. And if you open the Xcode, it will give you a couple of options to download the command line tools or like the components that is required. Actually some extra components that is required based on your system configuration, it will install them, so you need not to do anything. Now after installing the Xcode, you need the simulator. Okay, setting up the simulators. Now these simulators, so like normally Xcode gives all the simulators that is available for the iPhone models. Okay, if you need the specific operating system iOS, right, then you can even download those things. I will showcase that. So let's say that we have installed our Xcode. Now how to open it? You just go to the Spotlight search and you just search it Xcode, and then it will launch the Xcode utility, and you can see that it will showcase like this. No need to do anything, like as I told, all the components were installed for me, but for you if it didn't install, then you can just it will pop up, or else there is another way. You can just choose this one, Xcode -select, it is the command, and then -- install. Just copy paste this one into your Mac terminal, and then it will install all the CLI components that are present. This is another way to do that. If you are using less than like 1.20, then you have to install the Carthage as well. That is also required to install the WebDriver agent. What is WebDriver agent? It is acting as a mediator between your test case and the actual execution on your mobile devices or the simulators. Okay, so it will take to install the WebDriver agent. Let's say that if you are using the higher version, that is the Appium 2.x server, which I will be showcasing after some time, you don't need the Carthage actually. Fine, so we are done with this. Now let's see how we can really set up the simulator. So you go to the Xcode and then you choose the Xcode from the menu and then choose Open Developer Tool and select the simulator. Now this will launch a default simulator. Okay, if it is not yet launched, you stay into the simulator. Now you can see that it is coming the simulator, which is on the simulator view, but the simulator UI is not yet launched. Now to launch that, you can choose this one, or maybe I think into the file, and then open simulator. You can see there are a lot of iPhone models are available. You can choose any one of these. Let's say that this is my required simulator where I want to install the application and run the Appium test. So I will choose this one. Now this will launch the simulator. The iOS 16 is the default OS installed for this particular Xcode version. Actually, if you want to install a separate OS, let's say that lower than iOS 16, what you can do, choose the Xcode, come back to here. Now you can go to the preferences, you can see the preferences, and here there is something called as platforms. You see that, and then you see this is iOS 16, right? But you can add by clicking on this plus sign. You can go to the iOS and you can see all the earlier version of the operating system, the iOS, are available. Like let's say that your requirement is to run a particular test on iOS 15 simulator. You choose this one and you can see download and install. It takes lot of time, so if you need it, then only you install this one. Now whenever you download and install this one, right, now it will be displaying here. Okay, the iOS 16 is default. Now it will show iOS 15. That's how you will come to know that what operating system of the iOS are available on your system. Once you do that, again you can go back to your like simulator view, click on the file, open simulator, and it will show. Now here it is the default default view it is coming. All are like 16 version only, but when you install the 15.0, right, it will display all the versions of the 16 and also the 15 also, so that you can choose the combination of the model and the iOS also from there, and then it will launch another simulator. On top of that simulator, you can install and run the Appium test. That is how you can do that. And then if you come back to this device view, here you can see couple of options are there. Like you can have the shake gesture, or you can rotate the device automatically. Like let's say your app is supporting landscape, it will automatically launch into the landscape mode. You can rotate it also, you can restart, you can erase all the content and the settings on your simulator. All these things you can do it. Okay, now the second thing is that how do we get the mobile application? Okay, so the first thing is that you installed Xcode, then you have set up your simulator. Now the third thing is that install the application. Now to install the application, I need the app, right? So there are two ways to get the application. Okay, one is the .app. Okay, so whenever you build the source code of the development source code, and then you open that into the Xcode, you can build it. You can talk to your developer how to do that. They will help you, or else you ask them to upload that .app file into some public link or maybe internal server if anything is there. From there you can download that, install it into the simulators. If you are using real device, let's say that a iPhone that you connected to your Apple laptop, then you can ask the .ipa file. .ipa is for the real device, .app is for simulators. Now I will show you a couple of demo applications that are available into the Google or into the specific places where you can get it and download and install it. I'll show you one of that. So this is Sauce Labs, one of the demo application. Actually they have this. Actually you can clone this particular code base and you can build it to get the iOS application, the .app file from there. If not, then what you can do, you go to the releases section where they have already built and generated the applications for you. Now here you will see the latest version. Just scroll down a bit and you see that for Android and iOS, because this particular code base is for both Android and iOS. If you have Android, you can download this APK. You see that .ipa for your real device. But let's say that you want to install into the simulators, then you .zip file, you can download it, extract it, and this will become your .app file. You just drag and drop to your simulator here. Okay, and this will install your demo application. Like this is the demo application which I downloaded from here and dragged it to this particular simulator to install it. Okay, now we are ready with the application installed with the simulator. The next thing is that running the Appium server. We have already looked into our previous session how to download, how to install the Appium 2.x and then run that Appium server, right? Now the next thing on top of that is we need the driver, actually the Appium driver, which runs our Appium test case into the simulator or real device, and we call it as a XQ test. Okay, so for that I have created another blog, if you see this, where the Appium 2.x allows to individually install the drivers. We have seen how to install the UI automator too in our previous session. The same thing, now you can install the XQ test also. Okay, I have already installed that, but I will show you into the command prompt how it looks like. So let's say that you didn't install already the XQ test. You just need to go to this option, like yeah, so you have installed the, yeah, here you see you have installed the Appium. Okay, Appium 2.x. Now the next thing is that you need to install the XQ test, which is to run the Appium onto the iOS devices. You just click on enter, it will download the XQ test driver actually. Now to understand what are the different drivers that is present in your system, you can use this command. You can see Appium driver list. So you just run this one, and this will give you all the drivers that are available into the market and how many are installed. Okay, if you need anything else, you can install individually by having that install command. If you want to update those drivers, you have these commands ready. Even you can uninstall those things also. To uninstall that Appium driver, uninstall the driver name, whichever the driver you want to uninstall. This pipe to true is basically, this will help you. If there is a driver installed, then only it will uninstall, or else unnecessary it won't try to uninstall that. You might get some error. That's why it is recommended to have this piping and a true command there. Fine, so these are the quick ways to uninstall and install the drivers. I have already installed the XQ test here, you can see. Fine. Now the next thing is that I need to inspect the application. What is for required to inspect that? Now let's say that you have this application, right? How do I identify these elements? Let's say that I have launched, I have to go to the menu, and then I have to click on this login, do some actions and all those things. How do I do that? Let's say I logged out here, and then if you come back here, all these options you need to like inspect these things, right? So that you can write a script to enter the value or perform certain operations. For this we need the Appium inspector. Okay, even on that also we have already discussed in our previous session that how to deal with the Appium inspector. So because you are installing the your Appium 2.x, you cannot use the your old Appium inspector. The Appium team already given a different way of installing the Appium inspector into your machine, and I have already listed into this particular blog in detail like how to use this inspector tool. Okay, so you can follow this one. It's a very quick guide to get into the GitHub and download the specific Appium inspector DMG file and install it. How does that looks like after you install? You can just do a search into the Spotlight, and then you get the Appium inspector. Okay, like this you will see, and we have already an extensive video on that. I will be sharing that into this. You can watch that couple of minutes video to get more understanding into this. Okay, so like as we have seen, the Android app need couple of the capabilities. The same thing, the iOS mobile application need couple of capabilities also. There are a couple of new things that I added specific to the iOS that I'm going to discuss. One is the platform version should be whatever the version that you are using. Let's say that I think this is the one that I'm using. Yeah, here you see that 16.0, and that I have got it from here, 16.0. The next thing is that the device name. Okay, how do I get the device name? This iPhone SE 3rd generation. Now you see that it's a hyphen 3rd generation, but here it is coming in bracket. So to get the exact simulator name, what you need to do, you need to follow this particular command. Where it is, yeah. So you need to specify this. Remember, we have installed couple of CLI commands. By using this particular command, that gives me the xcrun command associated with that. Now I can just copy this one, open my terminal, run it as it is. Now what this does, egrep and booted, this will list all the simulators, all the real devices that are attached to my machine now, and they are active. And you can see that there is only one simulator attached here or launched at this moment, and this is where you can see the device name, and this is my UDID here. And because I have only one OS installed, that is 16.0, it is not listing, but other than that it will list here, so you need not to worry about that. So these informations I can get it and put it into my Appium inspector. Now the next thing is that getting the bundle ID. Now how we are getting the app package and app activity for our the Android, iOS need the bundle ID. Bundle ID is nothing but uniquely identifies the the ID for this particular application. There are a lot of applications installed here, right? How does the Appium script know where to run the test cases? That's where actually we need the bundle ID. For every application that is installed on your device, you can get the bundle ID from your developer, or if you have access to the code base, you can get it right away. Okay, so like one of the quicker way that I can showcase, if you go to this particular code base, right, and go to the iOS section, and then you need to go to this Xcode project, go to this pbxpros file, and then here you need to search for bundle ID. Let's see that. And you can see that the product bundle identifier is this one, and this is one of the way, and this is very common way of getting the bundle ID from any source code if you have access. If not, the best option is you can get the information from your developer. I have again written a particular blog on this, like here you can see that you can get it if you are on Windows operating system independent of OS. This is specific to the Android, and then bundle ID for the iOS applications. You can even run this particular command as well into your terminal, and you get the bundle ID of that. If not, then you can get some other quicker ways that you can use the your iTunes application and all those things. If not, the best way that I always go into this code actually. Okay, so now that I got the bundle ID, and then the automation name is XQtest, okay, and the platform name is iOS. This much information is enough to launch your application into the simulator and inspect that. Now let's do a start session. Okay, and you can see that it is saying that you need to have your Appium server launched. So let's come back here and let's just run the Appium. See, the Appium we have already installed with the npm command, right? And now the server is running now. Now let's go and click on the start session. It takes some time, and you can see that the inspector is launched here with the mobile view. Now what you can do, you can open this application. Now whatever you do the action here, right, those things will be populating here. Now for an instance, this is my home screen, right? Sorry, this one. Okay, no, not this. Let's go back to here. Yeah, so this is the default view. Now you just come back to this inspector, do this refresh. Okay, and you can just click on any of the elements to identify the locators. We have already looked into the Appium inspector, how to get the the IDs or the locators, and how to execute or evaluate them. All these options we have seen that, and I would leave that as it is here. If you have any questions, do let me know, we can rediscuss that. Okay, so now let's say that I have already grabbed all the required elements like the menu once. Now let me show you what is the test case that we are going to automate today. So I'll go to the menu first, then I will click on this login, and here I will enter the username and password. The username and password is already mentioned here, and then I will click on the login button. That's it. And all these options I have already identified. And you can see that the same option came here. Once I refreshed, I click on this username, and here you can see that the ID is came here, username input field. These things you can utilize it. Okay, so I'm closing the Appium inspector for now and let it run here. Fine. Now let me close my mobile application as well. Fine. And you know what, like because you're writing the WebdriverIO script here, you don't really need to make sure that the Appium server is up and running. It is only required when you are inspecting the elements. Appium inspector need the Appium server. Your WebdriverIO script doesn't need the Appium server. It automatically runs your Appium server while you are executing your test case. So I won't be having a dependency from the terminal. I will Control C and close it. Okay, so that I have now come to know how to handle the Appium inspector or how to inspect the elements. Now the next target is to get into the code base and try to write the test script. Here again it is two parts here. One is actually the actual test case, which I need to write it based on the steps that I have specified just now and based on the inspected elements. The second important thing is that setting up the capabilities. Now if you go to the WDIO conf.ts, the services will remain as Appium only, and for this, if you guys remember, we have used this Appium service. Now this helps me to run the Appium server before running the test case and then understanding all these locators which I'm utilizing. The iOS test is currently blank. We will be filling the details. Okay, now services will remain as Appium, but if you see the capabilities, right, this needs to be changed. Now I'll just copy paste this one and put a comma here, and I will specify another capability, and now up to this I will be commenting. I don't need the Android one here. Okay, now here the same, if you remember, we have entered all these things into our Appium inspector, right? Same things I'm getting here actually. Now give me 1 second, I'll get all the details and update here. Okay, iOS, and then this should be the XQ test, right? So I will just specify that, and then I will be copy pasting the simulator name, which we have already seen how to fetch it. So I'll copy paste that. The platform version is 16.0, and then I don't need the app package and app activity, rather I need the bundle ID. Okay, so bundle, capital I, small d, and here this should remain as it is. I don't need the app activity. No reset equal to true, because actually there is a problem that I have seen with this. So if I'm just specifying the bundle ID, it is not able to recognize that. So it need the Appium app also, the app path that actually we are using it. So I'll do one thing, I'll copy paste the iOS application or the .app file into this particular apps, and you can see that I have already specified here. Now I'll right click and I will get the path, actually copy path. I think I can get the relative path also, and then enter it here. Okay, that's it. Okay, so this process.cwd is kind of getting the project directory, the actual project directory from the root, and I'm joining with this particular .app file. The only reason that I'm making it as no reset equal to true, so that it will not reinstall the application. It is already installed into mine, right? Now it will take this application, install it, it will take some time. So no reset true will never uninstall actually. It will always keep the same thing only. Fine. Now here I have all the details that is required, the capabilities. Okay. So now the next thing is that I need to write the test case actually. And for quicker option, I have already written that, so I will be taking and copy pasting it directly here. And I will say that iOS my log iOS login application. I'm just doing something actually. Now here what I'm doing, first I'm going to the menu option, clicking on that, waiting for some time just to showcase. It is not really essential. The next thing is that I'm clicking on the login button. Okay. After that, I'm doing a try catch block. The reason that I'm doing, let me show you that. Now let's say that you have already entered the username and password. What happens once you logged in, right? After that, if you're clicking on the login, it goes to this particular screen actually. Catalog screen directly it is going, or the card screen it is going already. So that is why what I said, if it is not yet logged in, I mean, let's say that it is already logged in. I mean, after you are clicking on this login, let's say that the app is already logged in. Now, in that case, what will happen? It will try to click this go shopping button, which is actually this one actually, this page, sorry, this page actually. So what it is doing, it is clicking on the login button. If it is already logged in, it will try to see that if the go shopping button is coming or not. If it is coming, it will click it. If it is not there, then it will do the as usual login only, which is this one actually. Okay, that is what I'm doing. A simple if else kind of a situation that I'm doing it. Okay. Or else every time you make sure that you log in, you enter the username password, and you make sure to log out. Sometimes I forget because it is a demo application. So, but then if you want to go with a process, you can do or handle different situations. Okay, so my script is also ready. It's a 8-block script, Jasmine framework I'm using. My capabilities are ready. There is no other things you need to do that. The simulator should be launched with a reset, like let's say even you can kill the application as well. Okay, now you should be running this application or the test case actually. Now in the package.json, I have already specified which conf.ts to run here. Okay, now the next thing is that I need to go to the terminal and I will say npm run WDIO, and that is nothing but this one actually. Now if I enter it, and I will keep open this particular simulator. There is some issue. Let's see what it is throwing. Appium is not locally installed. If you use globally Appium, please add Appium command Appium. Okay, so normally what happens sometimes, because I have installed this Appium globally, like if you see that, I'll say Appium -version, it gives me the local that is coming from here actually. So sometimes we need to add a step actually into the conf.ts file. So what we can do under the services section, right? Okay, so what I'm going to do, instead of this services Appium, I will be modifying a bit actually this Appium one. So let me do that. Okay, so you can do in this way actually. So what it is telling, Appium, you run this. If it is not working, then you can just deal with the command Appium, which is the global Appium server. It is actually. So if your Appium is like installed into the globally, then you can specify the command Appium, like as I have run it from the command prompt, right? Same thing I'm specifying here. So this is the way. Now let's try to run this test case and see if it works. You know what it is trying to do, it is, I think, picking it up with the Android test also. So probably we need to specify the proper spec where we are running this. So what I will do here, under the specs, I will be creating one Android folder, and then I will take this Android test case into there. The same thing, I will create one more folder actually in this, right click, new folder, and I will just say iOS, and I will be picking it up here, moving it here, and here I'll change a bit actually. So I'll say that iOS, and inside this iOS that I need to specify this folder, whatever the specs are there, you run them actually. That is what I am going to specify. Now let's run this test so that it should point to this iOS test only. Okay, you can see that now it is navigating, logging in. Okay, so as you can see, for some reason actually it didn't really logging in with that, but then because we didn't verify whether it is to be a successful login or not, it didn't really fail my test case. It just entered these 3 lines of code and it become pass actually. Probably we need to see that if this username and password is really correct or not. One thing that I see that it is actually bob@example.com, but if you see here, it just printed b@example.com. I think because of that it shown a problem. Like if I go, for some reason I'm not able to choose here, yeah, and then if I click on this and then login, it should log in correctly. So some problem is there, but again if you run your test case, it should work fine because the username and password is correct. But this is how actually you need to launch your simulator, do the setup, install the application, do the inspect, write the test, change the capabilities, and then run your test case. Now if you see all these things, right, but there are like separate things, like your Appium inspector is separate for your Android, iOS, and then the way we are launching the simulator, the way we are installing the apps are different, and those are out of your scope of writing the test. But then when you are running the test case, you see there are a couple of repetitive steps. Like here into the conf.ts, I have changed the specs and also I have changed the capabilities, but then the Appium server remains same, so there is no issue with this. But then I have to continuously change these 2 things, right? Based on that only it will change, it will run my script, which is not a good practice actually. But I will be showing in our upcoming sessions how do we distribute or making a multiple configurations, and based on the requirement, we will run those things so that you don't really need to change, comment, uncomment, and change something based on Android or iOS you want to run it, which will make it flexible. If you want to run the Android specific configurations you need to run. If it is iOS specific configurations you need to run. You don't really need to change anything into your configuration wise. You just worry about how to have your test steps implemented properly into the automation. Okay, so I think that's pretty much it for today. Hope this session is helpful. Stay tuned and do subscribe to this YouTube channel. We will be seeing some more interesting topics. Thank you for watching.